This question is subjective. It depends where your question is coming from. If it's coming from laziness, take it. If it's coming from, okay, how much time because I want to do something else more, that's a valid question. But be very careful in this question because we have a partner, a little partner, that is constantly bugging us. What are you doing?
The other side.
The other side.
It's like the Rebbe said that if you can be patur from like Tzilas Masa if you get involved in learning Torah in the same way. The pulling.
You're talking about learning Torah while you work? Is that what it is?
All right.
Thank you. Nice to see you from
Oh, we finished the mimer.
Yeah.
All righty. We already discussed, so to speak, the summary and the point. The point of this mimer that the origin, the original Nakuda percolates throughout all various pathways, and ultimately this is what enlivens, what materializes at the very lowest and the very furthest level. It's the same chayas, it's the same Nakuda. This is a very important thing to understand because this summarizes the difference between Kedusha and Klipa. In Klipa also, as we say, there is Seichel in Klipa. When you follow a logical trend and everything makes perfect good sense, you're supposed to go up your Seichel. What's the difference between the Seichel, the Kedusha, and Seichel, the Klipa? Seichel to Pnimi and Seichel Chitzeni. The difference is in this Nakuda, in this principle. In Seichel, the Kedusha, as it develops, it is the same Nakuda, the same light that percolates, that is followed through. Right, the original light, and the Rambam says, the first principle is that there is a first being. Then there is a logical process through which this presence of the first being can be recognized throughout human activity, out of the world. Like we say, very simply, right? A person has to eat in order to serve Hashem, in order to be able to do Avodas Hashem. In other words, and why does he have to eat, Doctor? Why can't you do Avodas Hashem in the Neshama level? Because the Rebbe wants that the Avodah should be Begashmius. So that eating, which is a physical activity, continues to represent the same Nekudas or Emes with which you started in Shema Yisrael. And then there is a completely different perspective. Different perspective is you have to maintain your body. You have to stay, you have to be in the world. It's exactly the same activity. Except that, what is the highest, what is the motivator behind it? Is it the Gashmi, or is it the Neshama, or is it the Guf? And this goes so far that it is conceivable, and this is what's happening in the scientific world. It's conceivable that you lose track, you lose awareness of the presence of the neshama at all. The way we see it is, there's a neshama. In order to provide a place for the neshama where it can express itself and function in the physical world, it has to have a healthy body. And then, if you focus on the body, you could lose sense of the presence of the neshama altogether, and then all your motivations, all your activities, all your pursuits can be attributed to bodily experience. There's not a neshama element in it at all. This is something which we are very familiar with. And there's no point of, there is point, but you have to stop at some point. But it's so clear that this is where the dichotomy is, where things break apart.
The eating perspective, the Neshama perspective of eating is what again? The Klippa perspective is...
The Neshama has a shlichus to bring the neshama message, the godliness, into the physical world, and that it can only do through the body. And for that purpose, the body has to be maintained. It's all in line what we learn in the Sikh and all that. These are all those commonplace thoughts that we constantly mention. Except that in this mimer he points this in at the highest levels and at the lowest levels, all the way into the essence itself. That it all represents the same Nekudas Emes. Okay. Vayei mashmin atzeres tiyolachem. This is referring to Shmi Atzeres. It's the last days of Sukkot.
You're starting a new Mama now?
Yeah. Official. Starting a new Mama. That on the 8th day, it should be Atzeres. It should be a withholding lochem for you. That's a simple literal translation. Sorich lahavi.
To remain on this call, press 1. Returning to the conference room.
Nobody there. Sorich lahavi. We need to understand mipnei ma bashvi yishol Pesach ksiv. Why on the 7th day of Pesach it says Atzeres Havaya LaHashem Elokecha. That the Atzeres is LaHashem. Chag HaShavuos ksiv. And Shavuos it says V'yosiso. It's also Atzeres Hashem Elokecha. It says also Atzeres Hashem Elokecha. But Khan and Hibasukis it says Ksiv Atzeres Tiyolochem Lo'inem Hashem Elokecha. Kam Tzarech Lahavi. Also, furthermore, need to understand Mashenik was Simchas Torah b'Shmini Atzeres. Found that Simchas Torah was established for the day of Shmini Atzeres. Simchas Torah means rejoicing with the Torah. How is it related to Shmini Atzeres? L'choira, it would appear that Hoya Tzarech Liyis Minchas Torah b'Chag HaShavuos. Simchas Torah should have been established for Shavuos. which is Ma Matan Torah saying, which is the time when Torah was given. Therefore, that's where it belongs together. Ma Nikol Shmini Atzeres Davke. Why was it established Shmini Atzeres? To understand this, Yesh Lahagdim Mashin is Boy Liyil. We have to revisit what we discussed before. Sha'atero Nikras B'Tzalmeinu. Atero is called B'Tzalmeinu, our form. And we discussed in the Maimah, the previous one, that Tzelem Hu Bechinas Tzuro Atzmi Yuz. That Tzelem, the Tzelem of Mus, as we spoke. Mus is a distant similarity, likeness. And Tzelem, that is the Tzuro Atzmis itself. V'hu sheho etzem nistayeh bozem. Which means that the etzem formulates itself in this Tzelem. And we explained what is this, how is it related to Torah, what's meant to tell of Tzura Atzmis. Because Erais or Torah comes forth from Chochma. Sheha-Chochma hi Atzmus Atzilus. And Chochma is the Etzem of Atzilus. This is that Chochma is the Etzem of Atzilus. This was explained previously, that in all Madregas, the Seichel, the Chochma, this is the Etzem Ho'inyan. And here, Chochma is the Etzem Ho'atzilus. Al-Kein Nikra HaTeir, Nikras HaTeir B'Tzalmeinu. This is why Torah is called B'Tzalmeinu. Because Atzilus, this is just to summarize it briefly. Atzilus means that which is close by. Eitzel. Atzilus is not a separate world. It's a world that is a representative of the Atzmus. And the Chochmah, this is the Atzmus, the essence of the Atzilus. That's what the Torah is called B'Tzalmeinu. In other words, Torah, in fact, is an Atzmi. But it's an Atzmi at the Tzelem level. When he's boy, and it is also explained previously, the B'Shorsha, that going back to the original source, Torah is altogether rooted in Chochma Hagduma. Chochma Hagduma means Chochma as it is in a pristine and etzem level, not Chochma as it comes later on expressed in a revealed manner, but Chochma as it is contained in the essence itself. Hainu bechinas Helam Ho'atzmi, which means the bechina of Helam Ho'atzmi. Okay, we'll read a few words and then we'll just, because these are all things that we have discussed previously, that there is in the Etzem also Chochmah, but it is in the Helam of the Etzem. Now, but that Chochmah is not anything that is expressed. That Chochmah is not anything that you come to know by encountering it. But this is a Chochmah that is inherent in the essence. Shehi Chochmah should be Ein Sof, which is the Chochmah that is within the Ein Sof itself. The Chochmah that's in the Ein Sof itself brings out this union of Helam Ho'atzmi, because Ein Sof means literally that it is without end. Without end means it has no boundaries. If it has no boundaries, then there is no way that you can grasp it, you can identify it. Chochmah, by definition, means something that can be that is identified. So how it can be Chochmah be'Ein Sof? So the explanation is, the explanation is the explanation to the question, not that it makes sense. It's possible for us to grasp it, but the explanation to the question is that this is a chokhmah that is from within itself. So it knows itself not by discovery, and definitely doesn't have to grasp it by its boundaries. It knows the essential truth itself directly. And this is the principle, what's called the Diyas Atzme Kaviyach. And if we say Kaviyach, Kaviyach means if it were possible to speak thusly, because as we mentioned many times, when we attempt to speak about things which are completely remote from worldliness and godliness itself, we are bound to use terms from our experience, from our world. But these terms are not applicable in others. The whole union of knowing himself, knowing means, as I said by definition, means discovery. There is no such thing in itself. This is Diyas Atzme Kaviyach. For lack of a better way for us to express it, we have to express it this way. Ma shebi Diyas Atzme, and this is what Torah is rooted in. This is Diyas Atzme, which means Ma shebi Diyas Atzme, where by knowing himself, Yodeya as HaTorah. He knows the Torah. Thus, the Torah is rooted in the very essence itself, because in the essence there is Diyas Atzme, the knowing of himself. And this is where Torah is also known to him. This union b'diyas atzmo, knowing himself. So we explain that this whole concept of knowing himself is not that we have no access to that knowledge. Where does it come? Where do we come to make the statement he knows himself? That is because a true presence has to know itself. This is what makes it to real. If he doesn't know himself, he's not a real presence. Like we said, in the worldly level, a rock. This is the basic building
To
block.
remain on this call, press 1.
This is the essence. So we said that rock is not an essence at all. It's not even a mitzvah worthy of mentioning, because he doesn't even know of its own existence.
What doesn't know its essence?
The rock.
What doesn't know its own existence?
The rock. The stone.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
When a stone is used in the wall, then it acquires some kind of a significance. Otherwise, it's not a mitzvah. Therefore, when we speak about atzmus, a presence that is in and of itself, does not have a relative presence. It is not a functional presence. It is not a presence that is there because of some other circumstance, in and of itself. And we're saying that this is a mitis himot, it's a true presence. We must therefore understand that there is ideas and that he knows himself. But this knowing of himself is not that he found out about himself. This is the meaning of a true presence. So, being that there is absolutely no way that we can grasp this concept, understand this concept in Seichel. Seichel is not an Atzmi. Seichel has no means of grasping an Atzmi. As we said before, Seichel is discovery, and Seichel has to have boundaries by which it grasps whatever it grasps. So therefore, what's the point of pointing out the ideas Atzmi, ideas Ateva? The point is to recognize and to express the truth of Torah, even though Torah is on your seichel, and Torah is actually, from our perspective, Torah is actually talking about world, to the extent that it is possible to misconstrue, misinterpret, and think that the world actually preceded the Torah. And the Torah came as an afterthought. Since there's a world, in order to tame the world, you need a Torah. I'll be saying that this is a very erroneous and a big misconception. That Torah, this is the essence of Elokus. And in the very same moment when there was a desire of Elokus to create a world, there was the Torah, actually preceding the desire to create it. I want to bring it down to our terminology. We have laws, I said laws of a signa, laws of ownership. How do we guard against intrusion of other people's property? Lo signa. So, superficially it would appear, as we said many times, that the primary thing is that there is the ownership, and in order to safeguard the ownership in our wild world, you have to have rules and lo signa. The truth of it is that it's the Torah that assigns ownership. The Torah that said that the order was created and the Torah gave him ownership. The ownership is not something that he gets from the world. He gets from the Torah. The ownership itself comes from the Torah.
Again, so you might have thought the Torah came to regulate the wild world and ensure ownership, and no, not ensure, and to just kind of regulate things.
Regulate,
but
when the ownership comes from the world. You say no.
The ownership comes from
it
the
is
world.
the Torah that assigns this ownership.
Okay, that's just that there's no real ownership without Torah being present in the world.
Right.
Because without that, all you have is sort of people grasping things against each other, which is not real ownership. People.
Right. Okay, so this is still understanding it from the negative perspective. And therefore it would mean that the Torah came to give the world greater significance. The real truth is that this ownership that is existent in the world, this expresses the root of the Torah. This is Torah that is being enacted over here, not world. World does not understand ownership at that level. And where is that? Where is that ownership come from? How does the Torah get this? Because it comes from the membership. In other words, the same Nakuda we said right in the beginning. The original Nakuda that percolates throughout all levels, all the way down to a signal. So that the ownership in the world is not a worldly ownership. This is Torah.
But it's sort of concealed in a very practical, worldly setting. Yeah?
True. Again, this is a way of expressing it. The truth is not it's concealed. It creates it. This is what creates it. You're looking at it saying, I'm looking at the world. No, I'm not looking at the world. You're looking at Torah. I'm Torah.
Torah creates it. See, even nations that trade seemingly honestly, they're only doing that because there's such a thing as Torah in the world. Nations that know nothing of this.
Well, that I don't want to go there now. It's too distracting. But you understand, they want to understand from our perspective.
That there'd be no real ownership without Torah. Torah creates real ownership in exchange.
When you're looking at ownership, you're looking at Torah principles, not at world.
The Eibishter wanted to express himself even on this level, and therefore there's ownership also to express the Eibishter's unity.
So that's the reality you're looking at.
That is the reality you're looking at. The Torah reality, not the worldly reality.
It's done off the Torah.
Like we said all the time, when you have a clock on the wall, what are you looking at? At the human being or at the wall on the clock? There is nothing in the wall on the clock and no relationship there whatsoever. And yet it's so engaging. It's so significant. What are you looking at? At a living home.
The person has to know when to leave for shul in the morning and go to sleep. This is really what it represents, right? The alarm clock at home. The snooze button is not part of this.
On button, speaker.
Okay. Somebody wants to know if we are having a class. So let's get back on.
Welcome to IDT Connect. Please enter your conference ID. Welcome to the conference room. Please enter your password followed by the pound key. At the tone, please record your name followed by the pound key.
I'm a Paltiel.
Thank you. Your participant number, line.
That's your purpose.
Huh?
Nasa Adam Mitzalmenu.
Right.
So does this mean that Neshamas Yisrael was created through Torah and through the aspect of the Torah that is the expresses the
No. So much is well. This is.
How do we learn how Nasa Adam Mitzalmenu? Because we're saying that Talmena really is Torah. So where does Neshamas Yisrael fit into it?
the Torah's presence in the world is only to the Neshamas Yisrael. And ultimately, the Neshamas Yisrael actually preceded Torah.
So Tzalmeinu refers not only to Torah, but also the Neshamas Yisrael is also
Right.
Tzalmeinu.
A Torah connects the way it's expressed is that Neshamas Yisrael actually are higher than Torah, is before Torah. But because Neshamas Yisrael come down into the world and establish in the world, at that level, you don't see their brightness, you don't see their godliness. And the only way you can reveal their godliness at that level is through Torah. The mile of Torah is that Torah does not change in its descent. Even when it's mislavish in Gashmis, it remains purely godly. The Neshamas Yisrael, they become mislavish in Gashmis, and they actually are participating in Gashmis. Like the Neshama is in the goof, and the goof has to eat. So they actually are participating, dependent on Gashmis. This is why it's possible that the Neshama should lose that consciousness. Torah keeps that connection alive.
Tanya says that even the Neshama itself goes down shtalshes. Not only when it's established in the Neshama itself, there's different kinds of Neshamas, Neshama Batzilas. So
Yeah, that's true. But all Neshamas, it's true, there are different Neshamas, different level Neshamas. But at all levels, whatever it is, at all levels, it is still a nitzis elokei. It's both. At all levels, it's still a nitzis elokei. At the highest level, it is mislavish in Gashmis.
and it's being affected.
It's mislavish being Gashmis. Van de meisten mit meisten mit dem Mesitcher Magid. The Kitzur, the meisten is like that. The Kitzur is, there was a moment where the Mesitcher Magid was a Talmud by the Baal Shem Tov, we all know. And there was a moment, a certain moment, where the Talmud Talmidim of Baal Shem Tov had negative thoughts about the Baal Shem Tov. That they were unhappy the fact that Baal Shem Tov is Mekarev and Oshim Pshutim, and that interferes with their take, with their brightness. And they, especially there was, the Rebbe tells a story that there was, thank you, it was a Shabbos, there were many guests, and the whole Shabbos Baal Shem Tov was busy with the Oshim Pshutim until it came to Sha'ashudas. Sha'ashudas was exclusive for the Chavraya. During the Sha'ashudas, some of the members of the Chavraya, the Maggid including, were thinking that, this is the way it should be. This is good. And then Baal Shem Tov, of course, sensed the whole thing. And there was Ma'aseh, everybody knows that when Baal Shem Tov told them to hold their hands and tell them, for years the Maggid was troubled. How did he dare to question the Baal Shem Tov? Until that the Maggid himself had the Aliyas Neshama. Aliyas Neshama, he was journeying through the various chambers in Gan Eden, Lamayla. And he came upon a chamber where Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching children Chumash. And he was teaching the parsha where it says that Avram fell down on his face and he laughed. Hashem said to him, "You're going to have a son," and he laughed. So there are all kinds of, how did Avram laugh? So Rashi explains what the Hashem, the Moshe Rabbeinu said, children, the pshat, he laughed. You should take it simply. He laughed because he didn't believe it. He couldn't relate to it. How can it be that that at this age I'm going to have a child. Then you have a kasha, but how to Avraham Avinu doubt the Meibush? The answer is that when the Neshama is mislabish in the guf, certain thoughts come to the Neshama unobtrusively. It's not even aware that it's thinking this. It comes straight from the guf. So the Maggid said, the Maggid listened to that shir from Moshe Rabbeinu to the children, he was appeased. So he calmed him down from all the years I would travel to Israel.
No, okay, so related to what we were talking, to explain how this story illuminates what we were just talking about.
When the shamas come down in the group, and they're affected in the group. And that is why we need Torah here to keep the connection vivid.
Torah doesn't get affected by it. Torah things stays the same.
We're going to act up on me now again? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was delayed calling in, so just tell me what was the context, what was the issue that you're speaking about, the story?
Why we need Torah to keep the neshamas attached to the Meibush. Torah neshamas are actually higher than Torah, because the neshamas come down into the world and then they become mislabish in the world. That's why the neshamas need Torah to keep that connection.
Whereas the goof, I mean, the Torah does not have any such effect on it from coming down into the world. It also
Right.
comes-
Right. No, the Torah does not. Okay, so we're on top of page Chof, on very top of page Chof. Yeah.
Tanya, he asks the same question, why do we need Torah? We have a Neshama. He answers that the Sadhu is Yesh B'Shoah. This is the same thing.
Yes, there's a similar over there. He's not talking about Torah, the Neshama being affected. He's talking about even at the highest level of Avodah. So, but the explains over there is not why mitzvahs? Why mitzvahs? The Neshama is Atzma is connected to Meibush. That should be sufficient. He explains that Ava that he has in the guf, he has Yesh Mishoyer. So that already is not Miyuchat B'Telakus the way a mitzvah is. A mitzvah, this is the Rotzen Aki itself. This is the Hashem's presence. Okay, so we're on the top of page Chavches. That the Indian ideas, Atzmi ideas, this is what we were kind of reminiscing and discussing again. The whole principle of ideas, Atzmoi.
Does he know this idea? Does he know the Neshamas Yisrael in the same way that he knows the Torah?
Right. Some Yisrael are also rooted. When it's began is boyer. And it's also what was explained, the shoyresh ha'toira hu b'bchina sha'ashuim ha'atzmi. That the root of Torah, the shoyresh of Torah, is actually in the b'china of sha'ashuim ha'atzmi. Sha'ashuim ha'atzmi means the oinag atzmi. Rak, except shezehu k'mei shebo b'bchinas helam ha'atzmi the chochma. Except that even Shashuim Atzmim, it is not Shashuim Atzmim the way it is in Shashuim in Oinag, in Atik, but the way that in is reflected in Helmo Atzmi the Chochma, because Chochma is rooted in Oinag also. And this is why it's called Tzalmein, because Shashuim, this is I'm going to explain this a little bit. We discussed it then. It's extremely subtle, but I want that we should hear.
What's shashui?
Shashui means plaything, something that you enjoy. You have to understand that the Indian that says that he knows himself. That itself is a kind of a statement that is not fully appropriate for Atzmus. Nevertheless, we can speak of it because of the fact that we're saying that there has to be that awareness, that knowledge. Otherwise, it's not a real thing. Etzem means that he knows himself, and because it has an element of knowing himself, that knowledge is already not himself. He's knowing himself. Therefore, it's called Talmeinu. It's knowing himself, having himself at the knowledge level, at personal knowledge level. Therefore, it's called Talmeinu, not himself, but Talmeinu, his form, my form, our form. But then there is a deeper meaning. This is called Oinig. Oinig does not have a transition. Knowledge, by definition, as we said before, how can it be knowledge and etzem? Knowledge means something that's discovered. That means there's a moment where you don't know, there is a moment that you know. Even though there isn't that moment, but the whole experience of knowledge represents that. There is knowing and not knowing. Like we explained all the time, the meaning of sight. Sight is a constant thing. Sight comes effortlessly. Totally effortlessly. Yet in sight also, there is that sense that I'm seeing it. I'm seeing something that is not me. Even though I see the very essence of it, the mehus. Nothing escapes it. I see this. I see it because it's true, not because I'm experiencing it. Like they want to convince us that we see it because we experience it. No, we don't experience it. We see it because it's true. So therefore, we understand that we see it become one. We see its very truth. Yet it's not really one. We see it. And if you say that we see it, then it means that there is a discovery moment. I'm seeing it. From not seeing it, I'm seeing it. That is possible in Chokhmah, even at the deepest levels of Chokhmah, where you see mamish the mahus itself. Oineg does not have that transition step. Oineg has to be totally unity. There cannot be a gap between the Oineg and the one that's Masonic. Cannot be. It's a total unity.
Between what and what?
Between what you're Masonic from and the one who's Masonic. There cannot be any kind of discovery alone.
I don't know if you can explain that anymore. Why?
We explained, if you would recall, that contrast breathing versus eating and drinking. Where eating and drinking is an activity that comes from a point, okay, I need to eat, I need to drink. So there's a moment I need to drink, and I go and I drink. And then when I drink, I no longer, where do I get the water? I get it from the source. But now I'm no longer connected to the source. I'm taking it into myself. I don't need to drink anymore. I don't need to eat anymore. Eating and drinking is like Din HaChoch. safe. You find it. But breathing is also a need. In Gashmis, everything comes in form of a need. But the experience of breathing is totally different. I'm never disconnected from the source of the air, of pressure, of breathing. I'm always breathing, even though I'm also taking in and out. But that taking in and out is only due to certain limits. But the essential meaning that I'm in the air all the time. And it is automatic. I'm not taking it in like we always explain, that the air comes automatically. It's the air pressure that pushes the air into our lungs. And that is how we breathe. This is our experience of breathing. Not I'm taking it in and I'm judging what I'm taking it. It just comes automatically. And the only way to experience breathing, the only way to experience life is in this manner that is totally smooth. There is not a gap between the source of life and the experience of life.
This is called Ayin because this being part of the source of life, this is itself
This is the meaning of
great pleasure.
Okay. It is true that the translation of Oineg is pleasure. Pleasure is chitzonius. This is where you become aware of it. Perhaps a closer meaningful meaning, a closer way of expressing is delight, where there isn't a pleasure, there isn't a definitive experience. Oineg is one with the Misanic, one with the Nefesh. Where there is not an awareness that I'm Misanic. If there's an awareness, then it's not. Then it could be a physical pleasure, has worldly pleasure. It also has a certain element, but that's what's called a replication, a first false representation. The meaning of Oineg, of Chayes itself, like we always explain, just today, lately we started talking about Neshama logic, Neshama seichel, and Guf seichel. Guf seichel, how does a Guf? Guf also has logic. This is the whole logic of the world. And what is the logic over there? The logic over there is that one thing pushes the other. There is not an essential reality to it. Let me explain the following. The Gashmis, you cannot put two things in the same place. If you have two chairs, each chair has to have its own place. Therefore, if you have two chairs, they will be standing one next to each other, not in the same place. They will be standing in two separate places. This is a logical way of setting up. You bring in one chair, you put it down the next chair. Where are you going to put it? Next to it. Okay? This is the way it is with Gashmis. And therefore you can look at the whole setup, a home setting, and you say the whole setting came by default. Because you couldn't put two chairs in the same place, therefore this one comes in. And that's how it all set up. There is not a real perception of a home, that this is what a home is supposed to look like. It's by default. You couldn't put them all in the same place. Therefore they had to put them next to each other. Then there's a completely different view. No. There's a whole overview. This is what I want. And therefore each chair has its place because that's where it belongs. And there's a unity. This is the pshat that there's a source. And in that sense that it has a source, there is no gap. There is no logical reason between, why this goes over here. Because each thing represents its original perception, its original concept. It is not a separate force that puts this over here and this over here.
And this is a delight. This is what we say is it delightful?
The source of this, that it should be in a certain right, that's from delight. This delight, this is where delight is in Chokhmah. Chokhmah, things have to be right. Why? Because in delight it has to be right. This is why in Chokhmah it has to be right. And then in Chokhmah it allows you to further elaborate, okay, if it has to be right, how do you make it right?
What are you saying it has to be right?
Right. R-I.
It's like a true reflection of its
Right.
essence.
It's a reflection of the total reality, of total rightness.
Why don't we use the phrase Helen by Tammuz?
Because it is not an overt experience. The Neshama is not aware that it is delighting in anything. Are you aware that you're breathing? You're not even aware that you're breathing. That's even on the lowest physical level. We can recognize that there is a big difference between breathing and eating. Because in breathing, there is a fundamental difference between breathing from a oxygen tank and breathing from an open air. Open air, that's real breathing. This is when I say I'm alive because the whole world is alive, not because I am drawing life. This is like survival. Life is something which demands to be part of the living environment. That's what life is.
It's a good title. I'm alive because the whole world is alive.
What?
I'm alive because the whole world is alive.
That's right.
That's good.
Oh wow. So we are into quotes. All right. Okay. All right. Huh?
Does it work the opposite way also? Because I'm alive, the whole world is alive.
Yeah. So he says like this. So once we go into Sha'ashuyim, Ha'atzmim, except that this is the way it is in Helam Ha'atzmi the Chochmah. Here we have a real difficulty, but I've explained it there. The difficulty, how can you translate Sha'ashuyim in terms of Tzelem? Tzelem means there is a form, there is some kind of a gap between the real thing and the awareness of it. But Sha'ashuyim, there cannot be a gap. Yeah. Oile cannot be, there's no gap. The answer is, and I'm explaining that because it is b'chokhmah, because this is the way the Einik is reflected and present in Chokhmah. In Chokhmah, there's already Ayin from Tzelem. Even though it's Helam or Asmi the Chokhmah, it's no longer the way the Sha'ashuyim is in the life element in the Etzem HaChayus. This is why therefore it is suitable in a very difficult manner. It's suitable to call it Salmeinu because it is. Understand this. It's Chokhmah, but Chokhmah in say is awareness. So what's the difficulty? In Chokhmah itself, there is an element of delight. But in Chokhmah itself, there's an element of delight. In other words, in Chokhmah we understand, we see we see what reality is. We are not seeing reality in terms of being convinced that this is true. Convinced means that it's possible otherwise, but I'm convinced otherwise. There is not convincing element. I see the reality because I see I see that it's real. Sometimes it's like in sight. I see the very essence of it. The very reality itself. In other words, Chokhmah, even though it's called Chokhmah, but the underlying experience of Chokhmah is Oineg. It's real life, which is why Chokhmah is the source of life at our level. It's real life. And yet, because it's in Chokhmah, it's appropriate to call it Tzalmein, because there is an element of awareness as well.
So Tzalmeinu is referring not to the higher level of Tainug, it's to the second level.
Right. The way Tainug is in Chokhmah.
And we have a difficulty attributing Tzalmeinu to Tainug.
Right. Because
Third
Tzalmeinu
does not include this higher element of Ayin, the Shashui HaMelech.
Shashui HaMelech, the way it is in Chokhmah, that's what Tzalmeinu is. Not the way it is in the source. That is not called Tzalmeinu.
And Shashui HaMelech, as it is in its source, this doesn't come into Torah? Does not?
Right. Well, it comes in the Torah through, in a form of Tzalmeinu. This is what, but that's enough. This is what we explained so far. Okay. But then, furthermore, it can be explained that actually the Shoresh HaTorah, that the root of Torah, Hu b'bchinas Tanako Atzmi Mamos. The root of Torah is actually... What?
Where are you reading from right now?
I'm reading from page Chof Ches. The top of page Chof Ches. V'oid yesh leimer.
It's a poetry reading.
Second paragraph.
So far, this was only a summary from the previous Maimer. Now begins the next Maimer. V'oid yesh leimer. Now, so far, we said that what is Torah? Torah is Tzalmeinu. And Tzalmeinu means the way Oineg is at the highest level, is how Oineg is in Chokhmah. Within Chokhmah itself, as we explained, there is in Oineg itself. But it is in Chokhmah, therefore it's called Tzalmeinu. And this is what Torah is doing. Then furthermore, additionally to be said, the Shoresh HaTorah Hu b'bchinas Tainug Hu Atzmi Mamos. That actually the root of Torah is in the Tainug Hu Atzmi Mamos. Mamos means not the way it comes in Chokhmah, but the way it is in its origin. At the level and in the state where this Kol B'Atzmus, it is actually part and parcel of Atzmus. Which has not yet come down into the Helam Atzmi of Chokhmah. In other words, it is the Oineg, not at all at the noble and aware level. It is the Oineg, the way the Oineg is in its essence. And this is where the root of Torah is. Exactly what you asked, Baruch. Remember what you asked just now?
Yeah, so I get fetched, basically.
What? Yeah. This is why I stopped you. Enough.
Right. I already got my fetch.
Okay. The Torah is actually rooted in the etzem or oineg, the way it is in etzem. Not shall be bo adayin bebechinas helem or atzem lechoch. And as the Pasuk says, I was by him sha'ashuyim. Sha'ashuyim means the plaything, the enjoyment. Who is speaking? Who is speaking there? The Torah is speaking about itself. I was by him sha'ashuyim, a plaything. The pastors hamashmos, where the simple implication is that the Torah is actually Shashuim Atzmi Mamos, not the way Shashuim Atzmim are reflected in Chochmah, but the way Shashuim Atzmi are in Etzem itself, Mamos. And this is where the Torah is actually rooted. So now, where is Torah come into Etzem HaChoch, Etzem HaOineg? And as we pointed out, Oineg, there is no gap element between the Etzem and the Oineg. There cannot be. Can you possibly taste a tasty food by holding it in your hand, by looking at it, by dissecting it, by studying it, by knowing all its ingredients, by smelling it even? Can you possibly have that experience, even in Gashmis, except by putting it in your mouth and actually tasting it? Where there is no secondary stage. There's no transition between it and you. It becomes one with you. That's when you actually experience it. This is Oineg. So this is Oineg Gashmi. Just to illustrate that the principle of Oineg, Seichel has a gap. Even at the highest and the purest levels of Seichel, there is a gap. It allows for a gap. Like we say, sight is like the automatic, and you see the very reality itself. But it's an acquired sight, an acquired knowledge. You can close your eyes and not see it. And the truth is, the way you see it, the fact that you see it because you could close your eyes and not see it. This is why you're able to see it. There's an expression in the Gemara, The Gemara refers to somebody who is sightless as Sagi Nohar. What's a Sagi Nohar? Somebody who's sightless. How is Sagi Nohar? The translation of Sagi Nohar means that he has a lot of light. Sagi Nohar, a lot. Sagi means a lot. Nohar means light, which means he sees a lot. If he sees a lot, so how is he blind? expresses exactly this principle. You cannot see if there is no limit to the light. Because sight is similar to the experience of Chochmah. It has to come piecemeal. You have to sense that you're looking at something, not that you and it as one thing. Then you don't see it. And you don't have Chochmah unless you sense that this is something coming to you. Even if it is the Oinek Shebachach. In Chochmah there is that gap, and this is why in Chochmah we can readily accept the term Tzamein. It's only a reflection of the reality. Then when you go into the essence itself, in Etzem HaOineg, where is Torah coming there? It's not a source for anything. There's no mitzvahs there. It says that Torah is actually rooted in Tammuz, Shashuyim Atzmi Mamash, in the Shashuyim itself, where they are, not where they're reflected. Ubi or Hoinyan Yuvon. To elaborate on this, you should be able to understand it behegdem mashakosuf, by first introducing what it says in the pasuk, Zmira is hoyu lichukecha. There's a pasuk in Tehillim. David HaMelech says, Zmira is hoyu lichukecha. Your laws and your decrees were zmiras, were like songs to me. Yom Razal, and the Chazal say, Shenen Ashal Zeh. David HaMelech actually was punished for this description. That he was describing Torah as Zmiris, as the greatest delight of expressed in a shir, in a song, and he was punished for this. So this seemingly ain't a mover. It's not readily understandable. V'haloi hashir ve'azimra, but is it not that the shir ve'zimra, that shir means with by peh, and zimra means with an instrument, bo mitzad hispoilos hatanik shebenefesh. What is the expression, the root of the expression of shir and zimra? It is mispoilos hatanik shebenefesh, is when tanik shebenefesh, the oinek shebenefesh is aroused. Ukmoi shir halviyim, and as there was a shir of the Leviim, the song of the Leviim, shebo machmas ha'oineg, which came because of the oineg that the Leviim experienced at the time of the Avodah. And this is why they came out with song. Ukmaimer, and as the expression in the Gemara is, yoidim lekabem b'shir. They know to focus in shir, in the song. Haina, which means she'ashir bo api hakavono pnimis be'enek shebenefesh. The shir comes, and it is reflective of the kavona pnimis, of the deepest intent kavona, the oinek shebenefesh and the oinek shebenefesh. Shezeh b'chinas tainuk shebechoch, which is a tainuk that is contained in Chochmah. And this is why it's called kavona. Kavona means that which is focused in, which is intended. The intent that is contained in the oinek. And this is what comes out in shir. Again, we have to stop. Just want to bring out the same point again. Contrary to what shir is in the world, when it comes to arouse your body, get you excited. Shir is an expression of the nefesh. And the reason it comes out in the form of a shir is because the excitement in the nefesh becomes so overwhelming that you can't contain it internally. But essentially, this is an internal experience. This is it for this morning. Have a good day.
Rabbi Paltiel, is Yitzchak Schultz there?
Yitzchak Schultz, he says he's here.
So could I ask him to call me?
I think he says yes.
Okay, so you have my cell phone number. Please give it to him and ask him to call me, okay?
Sure. I shall
Thank
do
you
that.
so much.
Okay. Okay, have a good day, everyone.
So the explanation in the previous mimer, essentially that was David HaMelech's he was saying Torah is only that, so to speak, or was that? We explained Torah in the previous mimer as being Asmas HaTainug, the way it's nimshach into Chachma. So that's essentially what Zmiros HaYilud.
That's right.
And we're saying he was punished for that, therefore he wasn't really accurately describing
Right.
Torah.
And he was punished, that's right. So the Rebbe is describing it further and says, what's wrong with that? Where was he wrong? Where is he? Okay, so you want me to give it to you or am I going to send it to you? Tell you? No problem.
So his error was to compare
The mobile.
sound,
917
which is coming down into the which comes down into the world,
753
which is pleasure in Chochmah as opposed to
6943.
Rather than
Tainig itself.
in Tzalmenu rather than in morning.
Good morning, how are you? It was so nice to see you here, huh?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.